So if not Côte d'Ivoire and if not Cameroon, then where to? What would be our plan B? And as we are planning our move, you always have to have that little plan B in the back of your head. And I do have a plan B, and I have a series of 5 countries where that I would consider if Cameroon and if Cote d'Ivoire don't work out. And I was inspired by Stephanie Perry's video on a similar topic, which was, let me look at the title here, which was the 7 largest communities African Americans moved to, and as well as Rashida Dow's follow-up video on that one that she recently recorded, which was African Americans are leaving the US for these 7 countries. And for us, from my perspective, is more from a Black family's perspective. And this would be as a Black American family living in the US, these would be the 5 countries that we would pick, and I'm going to tell you exactly why. The first pick would be France. I've talked about France on the channel for several times, many videos. I still have a few videos that I have to edit about my recent trip to Paris. And France will be an easy pick for us. There are multiple reasons. The first reason is that we're very familiar with the culture. I was born and raised in Morocco, and I went to a French school. All of my schooling, all of my education was done in French. In French, and I'm familiar with it. It's not. It wouldn't be a cultural difference. I speak the language as well. French is my first language, and I think that even in terms of culture, lifestyle, cost of living as well, it's an easy yes for me because I do appreciate some good food. I do appreciate French culture, and I love going to Paris. All right, I love going to France in general, but because I love museums, I love the sense of history, the sense of all these things that make French culture so interesting and so rich. One of the things that make it rich is all the historical aspects and like visiting museums and doing these things that I really, really love. I've enjoyed my time in, going to the Louvre and all that, the ones in Paris, but also in Normandy. I love history, okay? I love World War II history for some reason. And so going to the beach in Normandy, like where you had D-Day, and going to the museums there, and just trying to understand history and why things happen the way they happen. And so France is definitely at the top of the list because of those reasons, because of the food, because of the culture, because of the language, because similarities, we are very familiar with French culture, so it wouldn't be hard for us to adjust and to adapt. And we have family, we have friends there. And so it will make it an easy yes for me personally. I think that the fact that it's a different language, it's a big yes for me because I want my kids to be able to learn another language. At their age, I was learning 4 different languages. French, we spoke French at home, English at church, Spanish on TV, and then Arabic in the streets. So at the age that they are now, they're 10 and under, it's a great age to learn a different language. And so immersion is always the best strategy to do that. So number 1 would be France. Number 2 on the list is it's a neighboring country, and that would be Spain. And Spain would be at the top of my list because of similar reasons, because I'm familiar with the culture, because growing up in the north of Morocco, everybody speaks Spanish because we get Spanish television, Spanish radio station, everything. Everybody speaks Spanish because we learn it on TV, basically, right? And so Spanish culture as well, I'm very familiar with it. It wouldn't be any culture shock for me. I speak the language, and for my kids to be able to be fluent in Spanish as well would be a great thing. They do take Spanish here because we live in Texas and they have Spanish at school, but it's not like they are fluent or that I think they have it just once or twice a week. And so immersion is always the best way for somebody to learn the culture. The food, obviously, really, really good. I cannot complain. And so that is definitely a big draw because of the familiarity, because of the cost of living, because of the culture. It's definitely something that's on top of my list. For France, for example, I would be really interested in going to Paris specifically because of I like the city vibe. I just love it. I just like it, but also because it's a big city, but at the same time it's very walkable, right? So and it's very kids friendly. You have a lot of parks. You see a lot of kids going, taking the subway with their families, walking around with their families. So it's not like a big city where you feel like, oh, I have to hold on to my child, like, because you just never know what's going to happen. It's very, you see kids everywhere, basically, right? And so, one thing though about Spain and about France specifically is that because they're very similar culture to the U.S. culture, like Westernized culture, it's also a little bit of there's also stress associated with it because we I would say so. European culture is definitely less work, 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 work than American culture, than Anglo-Saxon culture in general. But at the same time, there's also a lot of big stressors that come with being in a, Western country where you don't necessarily get a lot of help at home. It's not very, very common to have like somebody to come to have a nanny at home or somebody to help with the kids with you at home just like here. It's not very common to have that. You could have it, but it costs a lot. And so that would be a negative when it comes to France or Spain, is because having that help at home would not necessarily be available. Sure, it might be a less stressful life because you don't work as much, because you do get to enjoy the money that you are working hard for, and so you have a lot of free time, a lot of holidays and things like that. But at the same time, you don't necessarily have that village support at home, that which is something that I definitely need, having 4 kids and all that. So it's always very, very, very good to have. So France and Spain are my top 2, and these are the only 2 countries in Europe that I consider for my plan B. The next country would be Mexico. So that would be the only country in South and Latin America. Mexico, again, because I'm familiar with the culture, because I speak Spanish, because I visited for work as well as for pleasure. And I really love the culture. Mexican culture, people are really, really, really hospitable, really, really nice. And so every time I've gone there, it was always a great, great, great experience. The food is great. Again, the ability for my kids to be able to speak Spanish, to learn Spanish, and the cost of living, obviously. Another bonus point for Mexico is that it's so close to the US. So it's just a 2-hour flight from Houston, so we can be back here, see family if anything happens, or just for fun to spend the weekend or something like that. So that would be a big, big, big yes for us to choose Mexico, because it's just it's an easy yes, right, to pick Mexico. Another reason also is because unlike European countries, like I said, you can get a lot of help at home, and that is not super, super expensive like it would be in France and Spain or here in the US. So having somebody who can help with the cooking, somebody who can help with the cleaning, things like that, that is more affordable and that is more common to have. Okay, so that would be also a big draw for me for Mexico. And also having a big expat community there, of fellow Black women, of other Black families there, that's also a big plus to have. And that, in all the destinations that I've picked, you can find that. Okay, I don't think there's a place in the world where you're not going to find Black people. Okay, so that's a commonality in all the 5 countries that I'm picking, whether it's France, Spain, Mexico, or the next one, which is Morocco. That would be my top choice in Africa if we were not going to Cameroon and not going to Côte d'Ivoire. Why Morocco? Well, like I said, it's home for me. It's where I was born and raised. I'm really, really familiar with the culture, very familiar with the country. Cost of living, definitely a big plus for us, because you can get a lot of things at a lower cost. Excellent food, excellent food. I miss it every day. Great culture, great hospitality as well. And also the fact that you can get support. You can have that village support at home with you. I mean, growing up, we did, and that was a big plus for my parents. And so being able to have that, I think it would really be a great experience for my kids and my husband to be able to see where I grew up and where I lived before coming to the US. So I think that would be a great plus. In terms of a city specifically for Morocco, I know for sure that I wouldn't want to live in Tangier in the north. That's where I grew up, because I mean, back then it was a smaller town and I felt like everybody knew everybody, right? And I didn't really like that. But I would rather go to Casablanca, where I went to college for undergrad, and I loved Casablanca. I really, really enjoyed the city. So either Rabat, the capital city, which is a little more calm, right? I would compare it to DC because it's big but calmer. That's where you have all the embassies and it's clean and all of that. And Casablanca, I would compare it to New York City, where you can do anything basically, right? And so I would say that Rabat would be a great city to raise kids and to have to have that support as well. So Morocco would be my fourth country as our plan B. Last but not least, another country on the African continent, and that would be Senegal. Senegal would be a great choice. That's actually our top three choice when it comes to Morocco. I mean, not Morocco, sorry. When it comes to Africa, it's like on the top four: Cameroon, Côte d'Ivoire, Morocco, and Senegal. And same reason, I really want to go to a country that is not English speaking country. So all of these countries also have that in common, is that they're not English speaking countries, like Mexico, Spain, France, Morocco, and Senegal. I want my kids to be able to be immersed in a different culture. And I really want to be able to maintain vocabulary, maintain the languages that I have, because when I don't speak it, I mean, it's normal, you lose it, right? And so it's good to be able to be in an environment where you get to speak those different languages. So Senegal, definitely, because of the culture, because of the hospitality, because of the food. Oh my goodness, the food. Fresh food in all these countries, that's a big thing in common as well, is the fact that there's not a lot of GMOs. There's a lot of, like when I when I was in France a few weeks ago, I was at a supermarket and I looked at the box of cookies and I'm like, I don't feel bad for eating cookies because I know that the ingredients are better regulated than the ingredients that are in a box of cookies in the US, right? So growing up, of course, we ate cookies in Morocco and everything, but it's not like you feel like the government is not really protecting you, because there's certain ingredients that are just banned, right? In Europe and in other countries, you just don't use certain ingredients in the food or even in bread, something as basic as bread, right? And so, but here in the US, it's like free for all. You remember with the whole Subway incident, like the Subway bread had that material that's used to make yoga mats, and there was this big scandal about that. And so you would not you will have certain regulations about what a baguette is and what are the only ingredients that you can have in a baguette in order for you to call it a baguette, right? And so having those protections is something that I absolutely appreciate as an individual, but also as a mother who's trying to raise kids in, the healthiest way, right? And so having fresh food that is not GMO loaded, and be able to have more time to spend more time outdoors and all of that. And another plus obviously for Senegal is being able to be in a sub-Saharan um, country, so that you have black majority, so that you can learn more about African culture as well, and where everybody looks like you. Most people look like you, so that's also a big plus when it comes to raising kids in that environment. So those are the 5 countries for us as a black family that would make the top of the list of our plan B for forget Cote d'Ivoire, forget Cameroon. This is where we're going, and this would be the 5 contestants: Spain, France, Mexico, Morocco, and Senegal, for different reasons. But there's a lot of commonalities in these countries, is that most of them I've visited. Well, actually, I visited all except Senegal. I'm familiar with all of them, like the culture, and we have people there, either it's family or friends, or people that we know from the Black expat community. So the soft landing would be existent, and yeah, being able to have that support system as well, being able to have help at home with the kids in some of these countries, that is definitely a big plus. So I want to hear back from you. What do you think about these 5 countries? And let me know, what would be your plan B? You have your main destination in mind. What would be your plan B, or maybe your plan C as well? What are those countries that you can consider if plan A doesn't work out for you? Okay, if you've enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like, subscribe to the channel, share this video with a friend of yours, and I will be seeing you again very soon. Until next time, bye.